It's 5 o'clock and time for the regular schedule Natchitoches Parish School Board Committee meeting as a whole, September 7th. Board members and visitors, please silence your cell phones and all electronic devices as to not to interrupt the meeting. Thanks for your cooperation. One reminder, board members, and I've been getting a few texts. Please speak directly into the microphone so everyone can hear what's being said. We're being broadcast across the parish and other parishes, and some folks just can't hear. So I'd like to go ahead and kick off the meeting with the superintendent's report.
Yes, sir, Mr. Benfield. I want to start off by saying that we've now been in school over a month, and so far.
Whoa, we need to do a roll call. I'm sorry, Ms. Revels is giving me the side eye over there.
Mr. Danzy?
Here.
Mr. Matuire?
Here.
Mr. Benefield?
Here.
Mr. Harris?
Present.
Mrs. McGaskey? Ms. Palmer?
Here.
Ms. Phelps?
Here.
Ms. Harvey?
Here.
Mr. Fredu?
Here.
Mr. Nicholson?
Here.
And Ms. Page?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you.
So overall, it's been a great start. You know, short of the obvious temperatures and the initial kind of traffic problems we faced, but overall, I think we're very much in the swing of things, and it's been a great start to the year, and that's a credit to our principals, teachers, support staff, and everyone in the central office. I do want to update you on a few items of note. The program that y'all implemented over the summer was the alternative placement, short-term alternative placement for suspended students. We are affectionately calling that SHORT in the district, and it so far, both logistically and in terms of getting the message across to students and things of that nature, has been very, very well received. And I will tell you, overall right now, discipline school to school is looking a lot different than it did last year in a positive way. A lot of our quote-unquote hot spots in previous years, between short and other implementation of other strategies, we're just seeing a real turnaround in some places. So it's exciting to see. Still early, but I do want to report that in general, that initiative that y'all voted on so far is looking really good. Just minor things like tweaking what time the bus picks up kids from the schools and what time they drop them off. But outside of that, it's been great. I do want to update you that the other item you voted on, I guess back in March or April, with the magnet school and that initiative with LDOE, that has now taken effect, and everything that you voted on is now in fruition. So if you have any questions about that, or all the work on that is done, and LDOE has signed off, and we're at a different point with that now. I do want to bring up, several of you have contacted me because we've had an influx of students in some of our elementary schools, and really almost every elementary school, that have some extra needs, specifically our younger students with bathroom needs. What we did is, we've always had these concerns, but I will tell you that I think this year probably more so than ever before, and a few schools more so than they've ever probably experienced. So I personally, with some other staff from the SPED department, from teaching and learning department, also Mr. Wascom, went out to those schools and observed exactly what was going on. We are going to be altering our staffing at those schools to some degree to respond to those increased needs. And I think that comes as some relief to some of the folks at those sites who are kind of experiencing things day to day and are in the trenches and are experiencing the stress of that. So help is on the way. We're going to get a few more people over there to help and just make sure those students get the service that they deserve, but also make sure teachers are able to address all students effectively, no matter what their needs are. As you can tell, the AC in the main office, we were told that it would go out eventually. That's 50% true. Only 50% of it is out. And Mr. Wascom will probably be talking to y'all next Thursday about putting out to bid the entire system. But we currently have 5 temporary units that produce 1 ton of air. That still puts us down about 10 tons of air, and right now it's 100 degrees outside, so you can imagine it's a little toasty. We will have another 5 of those units coming shortly, So that should get us through that time. But just, I guess pray for us in the meantime. I wanted to mention there was a concern from some folks about air conditions on buses. Me and Mr. Wascom also about, was that 2 Thursdays ago or 2 Fridays ago now? 2 Fridays ago, we went and observed all the buses in the lot with Miss Felicia. She was very helpful with that. And then I met them at NJH to observe the buses. I can tell you the air conditioning on all the buses were working. There was 2 that weren't, but those buses had already been pulled off the line and were going to the shop for that specific issue. Some of the buses were colder than others. I attribute that to just some buses had more kids on it. Some buses had more windows open or closed. Some had been running longer, so on and so forth. Every bus felt like you would expect a bus to feel with air conditioning, but in 105-degree temperatures at that point. We've now come down on those temperatures, so I feel like they're still working just as well, but they are now obviously more effective. My children also ride the bus. I will tell you that there's some days still that even with the air conditioner running, they get off a little sweaty because they've been on the bus a while. But I am comfortable telling you that the air conditions are doing their job. It's just I don't think any air conditioner on a bus was ever created to deal with the hottest August in Louisiana history. So, but definitely doing their job. I do want to also now hand you, Mr. Benefield asked me to give you a brief update on student numbers. One. So these numbers are not official, but this is the printout as of 1 o'clock today from J Campus. And this will tell you our total student count and each school's individual student count. You might notice Lakeview, there's going to be 2 Lakeviews because the computer always separates out Lakeview Senior High and Junior High, but you can add those together. Overall, I think we're down close to about 150 from last year. None of these numbers are solid, though, because many people will tell you that they will ebb and flow between now and October 1, and October 1 isn't even an official count until the end of October when we actually submit the October 1 count to LDOE. And so those numbers could go up a little, they could go down a little, but this just gives you kind of an idea of where we're at as of today. And so also just to give you an idea why they separate out pre-K, those pre-K numbers do not add to your MFP. Now they are funded separately through federal programs, but that's why that's separated out, because those students do not add to the MFP. You also see a 22 plus. Sometimes we have students who are over that age. When they're over that age, they also do not add to the MFP, but you can tell that there's none of those students there. Any questions on those numbers? Okay. All right. And so far, that is, oh, I'm sorry, one other item. There was a security issue, a tragedy in Port Allen, in the football game between Port Allen and Brewley. So our thoughts and prayers go out to them and Superintendent Smith, sorry. But what we've learned from that is we need to be vigilant. And so you may have noticed that we put out, Natchez Central will be in Lakeview when they have a home game in 2 weeks from now. We'll be wanding all individuals entering into the stadium. Overall, I was telling some board members prior to the meeting that was received very warmly and very positively. But we just ask that the community help us to, there's no threats out there that we're aware of. This is just us being proactive and trying to keep anything from happening to our community, like what happened in Port Allen last week. So again, our thoughts and prayers are with them. But Mr. Benefield, that concludes my report for September.
Thank you, Superintendent Eloy. Board members, any question for the superintendent? This school year seems to be the smoothest that we've seen in many, many years. And I really want to attribute that to our leadership with our, like the superintendent said, with our principals, our staff, our teachers, and it's been really, really good. Yes, we've got some bumps in the road, but when you have this many kids and that many roads and that many buses, we're going to have hiccups. I want to thank Mr. Wascom and Superintendent Eloy for actually going out and inspecting those buses in 106-degree heat. They spent about how many hours?
It was Besides actually looking at the buses, that took up most of our day that Friday, which we were more than happy to do because, it really was, if there was an air condition issue on any of the buses, that could potentially be a safety issue. But our friends at Echo were very accommodating and helped us out with that a lot. So
There was another piece too. Ms. Washington suggested the traffic pattern in NJH, and as a result of that suggestion, and with Superintendent Mr. Wascom walking it out, we did reverse the flow, covered up the markings on the areas, and had it restriped. So great job there, and it was for safety. That was a very, very good.
students will not be crossing in front of the bus when they exit. Yeah.
So good things there. Board members, anything before we move on with we're going to take Mr. Wascom's report immediately.
Well, the previous years that I've presented a budget to everyone here, I presented a one-page budget. And in hiring a consultant and working with him, we have presented what I'm emailed out and has been available online and was sent to all, both the Natchitoches Times and Natchitoches Journal. It's been available to the public for viewing. It's now 49 pages. All budgets are supposed to have a budget letter, and you will see that this one does. It's the first 5 pages, actually 6 pages. It's a budget letter. It's basically, actually I'm wrong, it's 7 pages here. But it basically sums up what you're about to see, and I'm real excited. The page 8 of 49 and 9 of 49 is the actual budget resolution that I would like to adopt next week. So I know I sent this out to y'all about 2 weeks ago, but y'all can definitely tell there's a different feel for how the budget is done. It's breaking things down, and if you actually go to page, I like to say page 5 of 49, can you bring up the budget?
So did we skip informational reports? Are we on finance now?
We're doing this because I need to take care of a matter
Okay.
out of town, so I'm going to do this and then depart, and then.
We're going to ask you to fill in the gaps here, Mr. Frado.
Yeah, have to leave town. My wife's about to pull up here in about 5 minutes, but 10 minutes. Page 5 of 49. Those are all types of budgets that are available through the budgetary systems. What you see here is the number of budgets we actually fulfill. It's all in the first column. So we have one general fund, we have 24 special revenue funds, we have 3 debt service funds, 1 capital project fund. The one capital project fund is the building going on at Natchitoches Central. That will conclude this year. Well, I would say it was district-wide, but we only have what's left at Natchitoches Central to finish up. Just a last minute, the holdback money. So we're just about to wrap that up. So that capital fund will be exhausted this year. We have 3 debt service. Those we have District 7, District 8, and District 9. All have debts, bonds that were passed in the past, and the other 24 special revenues are generally, almost all of those funds are the funds that are handled by Sarah Rachel and her team. Some are mine, but mostly it's her team that manages those 24 funds. Anyhow, this is a summary. You will see also summary of the finance. Go on down a little bit further down on that same page. This right here kind of does a very simple summarization of what you're about to see. And then on the next page. So we got now 4 columns. We have the general fund, which is what I used to hand to you guys, but I never handed to y'all what was going on in special revenue, debt service, and capital fund projects. So this is the addition, and this is what is inherent following best practices. So it's a read, and it tells you about where all our funds come from and where the money is flowing. And I'm hoping that y'all found this, those of everybody who understands what little bit we all were given in the past, how nice this is. A person doing my job, if they were brand new to this district, could come in and read this and be right up to date with where everything is. Know exactly how many BRE funds we have, what they're for, what sales tax, how much money, where all the monies are coming and going and everything. So I'm very proud of this budget because it's going to be a working budget throughout the year. When we make.
It's also very transparent to the public as well.
Yes, it's also very transparent to that. The bulk of the budget, if you go to page 10 of 49, this is, 9, yeah, you can start there, right there. This is the budget by function. And then the next several pages is broken down. Anyhow, this in a very simplistic form is what we have been presenting to you, but only the very first column. So now we're presenting to you guys everything that's going on.
3 years as well.
And this is the new format I would like to see us present, and we're supposed to be presenting to y'all as a board, so it's a more readable, functioning budget for y'all. Y'all can understand how much we're actually putting into what areas. Okay, go down page 16 of 49. Okay, right. Yeah, right there. This right here tells you where all the funds are coming from. This right here, it says 2.5% of sales taxes is where we get our second source of funding. It's all in perpetuity. It all states this out very clearly. So if you go on down, it gives you the last several years of collections all the way over to the right-hand column. This is the last several years. All of our sales tax funds go to the general budget. That is not how it has to be, but that's how we have always done it here. All of our sales tax monies go to the general fund. In some districts, they have some sales tax monies supporting debt service. So it also gives you how I forecasted these. I basically used forecast number 2 to estimate where we should be this time next year. And keep on going. Keep on going down to the next page. Right here, property tax assessments. This actually tells you how the tax assessments are valued by throughout the entire district, what the homestead exemptions are. We have a constitutional 4.65%, and we just renewed our 7% millage. And then if you keep on going down it right there, that actually tells you how much was actually collected in the constitutional and the renewals. So we're getting $4,001,362 in actual collections in year 1920, and then it shows as it's stepping up. And we feel pretty certain that since we collected 4.6 million last year, we would at least collect that this year. We believe the number will be significantly higher. There are no records out currently by the tax assessor to see what the taxable assets will be, but once those are out, we will make a budget adjustments once we know what the final numbers will be on tax assessments. So from there, if you will go to page 20. Keep on going. That's your pretty pie chart there about where we spend most of everything. We are required to spend 75% on instructional of our general budget. This is telling you we're spending 78.6% on basically teachers and instructional supplies. This is a requirement of ours, and this budget is based on spending to meet all those targets right there. Okay, well, let me see. I don't want to get knee deep into the numbers here. I was just going to show you some stuff that I particularly am proud of that we're showing you guys. Biggest questions I get are BRE funds. I'm going to skip over child nutrition, but now child nutrition is laid out in here. We laid out a budget that was based on the child nutrition projections at the child nutrition website. Let's go to page 30 of 49 real quick. right here. These are your taxable tax. This is where we get our BRE funds from. Okay, so Chad and Reverend Harris, District 7, these are the years of taxable assets. This is the actual amount collected all the way over for BREs in your district, okay? So, Russ, yours is District 8. There's your numbers there. District 9 are all the people who have city. These are the actual amounts of collection that have been happening. Once again, we are keeping that number flat. I do believe that the numbers of tax collections this next year will go up significantly, particularly in District 7 and District 10. District 10, you will see Mr. Nicholson, see the amount that was actually being collected per year in the far right-hand column right there. And that tells you your millage rate that we arrive at in that whole area, okay? We actually have the number of meals we estimate to be to feed. All that's just laid out here. We'd like to go to page 33 of 49. Right there. All right, keep on going down a little bit more. All right. These are the actual debts, the 3 debt service accounts we have. We have a debt for $7.2 million in District 7. We just paid off one in March from last year. This is the remaining debt that we have. The current balance as of July 1st of this year is $5.46 million. Do y'all see that in the far right-hand column? Okay, we have in District 8, Russ, your debt on the junior high that was built is $2.57 million as of July 1, and the $17.7 million that was done, we currently owe $16.3 million on that debt. But some of these debts have just started, we just started paying down a few years ago. You can tell by how, what year it was started. It says Series 2018. All right, so our total debt for the district in bonds is $24,340,000.
Lee, I have a quick question.
Yes.
District 9, the original issue was 17.7 million.
I remember in 19.7. I think that's a typo.
Okay.
I think that's. I'm sitting there
was
looking
thinking
at it
closer to
going. I
20.
think that's a 19. That's a 19.7 is what that is.
It was a $19 million bond.
What's that?
Yeah.
It was a $19.75 million bond. I think that's a typo, which I'll get corrected before next week.
Okay.
We were really rushing hard to get this pulled together. I was trying to catch all the typos, but so anyhow. But the end now, see, we pull the end how much we currently owe. We actually pull these from actual websites where they actually tell us what our remaining debt is. So, okay, next page.
Yeah, you can tell it's a typo because we got a 28 and an 8
Yeah,
before it's in.
yeah, it's a typo, but all right. This right here is how much money we're collecting each year. So if you will see in District 7, in 2019-2020, we had 11.5 mils, which is the second to last year. We collected $638,605 to service that debt. You will see how all of a sudden the debt jumped way up because our taxable base went from 56 million to 80 million. We're now at 79,560,000. I do expect that to go up significantly this year. But now District 8, your collections have gone down, but I have still been able to lower it. One of the reasons, Russ, was that our reserves are pretty strong. So we can only keep enough to pay the debt plus a little percentage for reserves. And so we were able to lower the taxes being collected out of District 8 from 33 down to 26. And that has still serviced it pretty well. You'll see in District 9, page down just a little bit. Okay, we've gone from 8 mils, which was originally passed in 2018, and we're down to 6.6 mils now, currently. So we are collecting with that 6 mils, $1.455 million to service the big 19.75 debt. And I do foresee that probably going down a little bit again next year. Okay. Well, that is kind of the rush. I would say this. I would like to go to page 39 of 49. Right there. All right. This is something y'all have not ever seen. The first column has there's 3 columns there. First column has questions marks because we didn't have a master schedule system set up. But this tells you exactly how many kindergarten teachers we have, how many elementary teachers we have, secondary teachers, how many kindergarten paraprofessionals we have, how many special ed teachers, all the way down. What we're asking this board to approve is full-time equivalents to teach. So this is our master schedule. And this is something that we follow and use to control exactly how much payroll we need to make available to pay our personnel. So we have a salary schedule, and we have apply it to this number of personnel. And if you keep on going all the way to the bottom, sum it up, yeah, keep on going. I think it's another 2 pages. It's actually to page 42 of 49, right there. See, it takes 723 people and 23 and a half people to fund all our positions. So a part of the budget and how we're supposed to be doing this is we're asking the board to fund 730 full-time equivalent positions. This gives us basically 7 to 6.5 people to work with. So if we have a fluctuation in enrollment, but this means that Dr. Eloy would be permitted to hire 730 full-time people and put in the system, and we only need at this time 723 and a half. But so that's how we wanted to present to the board. Y'all are giving us permission to hire positions.
In the past, has there been a cap like that, like a number?
There actually was no master schedule nor cap. Now, should we have been presenting one to you? Yes. But
We had the
There was
flexibility
a
to.
master at one time.
it was abandoned
but
at
it
some
wasn't-
point.
Wasn't like this, put down on paper this way.
There was a staffing,
Staffing for it.
There is
salary
still a
schedule
staffing.
simply because of cutbacks many years ago. And they had to pull some down, but it went through attrition. It wasn't because of reduction of force. It was, those reductions went through attrition.
Does this keep us from, I guess what I'm asking is, in the past, if we were able to hire maybe an extra person to put here or there, would this lock us in to that 730 number so that?
Without coming back to the board.
It locks you in without coming back to the board. If I go over that 730 number, I have to come to y'all and ask permission.
Okay.
And that gives you budgetary control over staffing.
See, you have a salary formula, and you have the number of full-time people. So you're taking the full number of full-time people and applying it to your salary formula, and you're coming up with what we pay in payroll, full-time people.
It's a check and balance.
It's a check and balance. But this also kind of limits the amount of people. We can't just hire staff willy-nilly and just exceed it without y'all's permission. It would be, so for instance, it's very expensive if you have 14 children to one teacher versus the amount of finances if you had 18 children to one teacher on average. That doesn't sound like a big difference. It's not really in the classroom on average, but it matters greatly about how much it costs to fund and extra classrooms you need to have many more teachers to get to the lower percentage that you have, the more expensive it becomes to run your district. So the question is, now the staffing formula is like 33 to 1. We don't really ever want to get that close to that position, but we are, but we're just now aware of it. We have the master schedule reestablished, and we actually have established by school and in each position. It's a very good control, and I will tell you, when we rolled out, it was a piece of when we rolled out the salary schedule last year. It was to create control. And actually, I will tell you, it created over $2 million in savings just having our master schedule in place. Now, y'all didn't notice that with cutbacks. We didn't really cut back. We just simply got more efficient with where we were at with the personnel we had. So I present this. I hope y'all are happy. I'm very proud of this. I know there may be a lot of other questions that if y'all want to drill down on any of the particular specific numbers, I'll be glad to do that. If y'all give me some questions, I'll be glad to answer them. And As usual, the drill down is really thick. This is still a summarization of the thick paperwork that went behind all this. Are there any other questions for me?
I just want to say it looks phenomenal, completely phenomenal, and so easy to read. So thank you for what all you did presenting this to us.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. It's
Okay.
pretty with all the colors and
All the pie graphs.
charts.
All right, and it will be ready for adoption next week. We will have met all our state requirements for being available to the public. A copy here will be available as well, but also it's been out on the web for over 2 weeks.
Thank you, Mr. Watson.
Thank you, Lee.
Before we move on, one thing we failed to mention, Superintendent Eloy and Mr. Coleman are going to announce a date for the dedication of the Coach J.D. Garrett and Mr. Eugene Christmas facilities at Niagara Central. So let's look forward to that. And
So I spoke to him today, I don't know why didn't put it on my list, but spoke to Coach Coleman and Dean Johnson, their AD, and they're going to incorporate something into their homecoming pep rally. And exactly what that'll look like, I'm not sure, but it's going to be incorporated with that. So.
that's great. Thank you. Okay.
So, Mr. Benefield, apologies, but Ms. Hicks and Mr. Shirley will not be here tonight. I talked to Ms. Hicks. I can go over her report. There's nothing really major, but Mr. Shirley will present at the next.
Let's do it. Go ahead.
Okay, so Ms. Hicks has the school food service began the year with a day of professional development where the staff was also treated to Chick-fil-A, and then also the August claims.
Some of your gift cards.
Yeah, well, actually, I think those are done now, but, and then also the August claims will be collected at the September 5th managers meeting, and so she may have August claims for y'all at the Thursday meeting, but as long as she can get all those in time. So really, so far it's been good, but she doesn't have any hard numbers to give y'all for a report.
And thank BOM for that wonderful donation.
Always.
Dr. Eloy,
Sir,
Mr. Shirley's not here, but I have a question, so you
Okay.
can get it. You know what it is probably.
okay.
Scoreboard at Lakeview was installed August 14th and still has no power, and we have homecoming next Friday.
Yes, sir. I spoke to him about that yesterday or the day before, I believe. So it's connected to electrical, but it's not functioning yet. And the electrician is supposed to be out. He knows our hard deadline of next Friday for homecoming. I've been assured that that will be met. The only thing that will not be met with, which I think I already shared, was the 25-second clock, which they've never had functioning ones of those. They actually have to bore under the concrete to do that. But they will have a functioning game clock, according to both Mr. Shirley and the electrician, by the hard deadline of homecoming.
Is this electrician our electrician contractor, or
It's a contractor. I'm not.
Okay.
I'll have to check and see exactly who it is because I'm not completely familiar.
So it's my understanding that once he's done, the company who put the board in has to do some commissioning also.
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay. So there will be time for that commissioning as well, right?
So Mr. Shirley, I'll have to dig into that deeper, but he assured me that he believed, based on his conversations with everyone, that they'd have a functioning scoreboard. But let me check on that tomorrow morning and make sure that that second piece is in place.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Any other questions for Superintendent Eloy in regards to child nutrition? Ms. Washington?
And apologies, Ms. Washington, I think we closed out board docs before she was able to get the hard copy or the digital copy to us. So we'll be putting that on for next Thursday.
Okay. Well, just we're going to talk about, over the summer, our goal was to hire 16 new drivers, and we didn't meet 16, but we did get 10 new drivers, and we have 3 more that's going test in the upcoming week. So we're at 13, because I do believe they're going to pass state board, coming up. We also, for the fair and for the fall farmers market, We're going to have a booth, a recruiting booth at both of them. So we are still going to recruit and bring in new drivers just to make sure we get at 100% plus some sub drivers in, just to make sure that we are out covering all the routes and being efficient with all of them. And right now, we have a random trainer riding every morning. We don't know who he's going to go with, but he's getting on different buses just to ride with the drivers to make sure they're following all the safety protocols, make sure that nobody's overcrowded, just making sure they're doing everything they can to make sure everybody's safe on the bus. So right now, that's what we have going on.
Okay.
Any questions or anything?
So is the day at the fair already scheduled and everything's ready?
Yeah, the lady from, I guess after the last time we had the meeting and she was here, and her and Miss Deborah linked up, and so they've been talking about it and getting everything set up with that. So that's just something we're looking forward to. And we got our new flyers with our $16 on there, so that has helped a lot tremendously with bringing new drivers in. So I
That
thank
day
you
at the
guys for
fair, did they request a presentation by Mr. McTwire and Reverend Harris? Maybe not. Thank you, Ms.
that.
Washington.
That's all I have. Thanks.
Can I ask a question about, I just heard you say that basically the morale of your staff seems to be up.
Yes, it is. It is. We have more drivers want to do more. We have more people coming in. Our pipeline is filling up. As soon as we hire people, we have more, coming in for doing class and everything. So trying to get everybody licensed and everything so they can drive.
But it appears that perhaps maybe your secretary, maybe not,
I can't hear you.
secretary may have gotten another job somewhere else.
Yeah, one of our dispatchers ended up leaving, and she went to a different job. Still, she's out of the parish for us.
Okay.
Is that
Well,
an open position?
It is an open position, yes. We're interviewing. We were interviewing today for it and everything. So we do have an AM dispatch opening.
Okay.
I'm concerned though that with conversation that the person, when we were given this money, I know the drivers got paid, but I don't know, there were certain folks who didn't get paid. And if that be so, I know it's not our job to tell the Echo Ride to pay other people, but if they're working down in this market, I think to keep certain folks, you need to see about treating them likewise, especially if they got something to do with our market.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm concerned about that.
I have a question. Have the drivers received this pay bump already?
Yes, they did. When they got their first paycheck, it was on there, and we didn't have anybody complaining. Actually, they couldn't even wait, to get it. So, yeah, everybody was very thankful.
At 8:30 in the morning, if you're at this gas station, they will all ask you those questions. I found that out one day soon.
Right. And that's what happened to me.
Thank y'all. Have a good night.
Thank you, you too.
Thank you,
so
Ms.
much,
Washington.
Ms. Washington.
Okay, Ms. Page. Ms. Linda Page.
We're moving right along. There's my report. I don't have much to add.
Yeah.
As you see, we have a lot of movement.
Board members, any questions from Ms. Page? Got a lot of movement.
A lot of,
Lot of work.
lot of, you have been busy.
Sure everybody's 100% happy, right?
Absolutely not. Okay, do you have any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Page.
Thank you.
Okay. We waiting next week, or are you gonna take, no, Ms. Rasha, no, she's here. Ms. Rasha, I'm sorry.
Good afternoon, everyone. I submitted a September board meeting report for federal programs, and I really wanted to focus on the big pots of money that we receive that are considered our student funds. Title I being the most, the one that impacts our students the most because it goes above and beyond what general funds provide. So for this report, I did give you a little description of these funds because I wasn't sure how aware the board members were of the different type of funding sources that the Office of Federal Programs manages. As you can see from, it's not the report. Mike,
I think that's still the budget.
not sure what that is. But as you can see
I
from the
think that's-
previous report,
We have.
that Mr. Wascom shared, we manage 24 funds.
Yeah, this is what we have, Ms.
Ms. Rochelle, if you want to,
That's not what I said.
we can hold till next Thursday and you can, because it was a very nice report, but it's not
Right.
showing up on board docs.
We can wait till next week.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms.
That's fine.
Rasha. Okay. Yeah. Okay. And Superintendent has Mr. Wascom's Finance Committee work.
Yes, sir. So on the budget update, if you look at the, pull it up so y'all see what I see. If you look at the 23 year-to-date and the actual year-to-date, that bottom column in yellow, really the only thing Lee said to report is you see about almost 600,000 more in spending year-to-date at this point than we did last year. That's all related to the new building expenditures. So that's that. There's really not a whole lot to report because, as you can see, only 1.6 million has been spent out of general fund, and it's similar in all the areas in this first kind of half a month of information. He did say if you had any particular questions, he could dig deeper with you next Thursday, but again, not a whole lot to report on the budget update because you actually haven't adopted a budget yet, so it's hard to talk too much about it.
Superintendent Eloy and Mr. Kozad, can you give us an update next week, next Thursday, on where we are with our new technology building? We're getting very close. It looks good. We've had so much dry weather. You should be many, many weeks ahead, right?
So the other thing I would offer any of y'all, anytime next week, if y'all are interested as a group or individually, we could set up some time for y'all to walk through it. You can start to really see it come together, and we'd be more than happy to accommodate y'all.
That's great. Board members, any questions for the superintendent on this budget update? Okay. Our favorite topic, sales tax.
All right, if you pull this up, you will see that this past month, we saw a decrease of 6.39, but overall, that's only a decrease of 4.3. We budgeted for, I believe, a 1% increase based on the conversations with the sales tax office. They still believe that's the case. If you remember last year around this time, we had a few major dips, and these aren't major. These are minor dips, but they still are projecting, us to either stay even or maybe have a slight increase. But as of right now, overall 4.3 for the past 2 months, and this past month 6.39 was not the greatest, but they are positive about the future. So.
Any questions on the update? Okay, that should conclude our informational reports. Ms. Palmer?
Yes, sir. 5, Finance, Facilities, Services, and Insurance. A, adoption of 2023-2024 budget.
So that was what Mr. Wascom's presentation was.
Okay. B, discuss and consider approving the canvas resolution of the April 29, 2023 election results. Mr. Wascom.
So this is the resolution that we'll have to read. I believe I only have to read it next week. Is that correct? And that we just have to get that done to make those official for the millage renewals.
Okay.
And that's for the past election in April,
Yes.
so this is history. We're just approving it as a board, the results of the election.
Nothing. Yeah, nothing.
Already on the ballot.
Yeah, these already passed everything. So.
All right. C, 2022-2023 legislative session MFP increase for certified and non-certified personnel.
Okay, so this is, I feel like our big topic of the night. As you recall, the legislature approved a 2,000 and a 1,000, 2,000 for certificated employees, 1,000 for our non-certificated employees. Because this is a one-time stipend, this will not go on the salary schedule. The legislature has said over and over again that they're going to try to push this again next year, but if you recall how the legislative session went this past session, you know that it's a little worrisome if that will happen or not. So what they've done is they've put this money in, and they have given us, LDOE's given us some guidance in talking to fellow superintendents. Pretty much everyone, the majority of districts are doing a two-time payment. The only restriction that they've given us is that it needs to be paid out in full by May 1st, 2024. So you have, we put forth 4 proposals for you. The one that we as a staff feel is the best, after talking, was to split it into 2 payments, one to be paid out in November, prior to the Thanksgiving break, and one to be paid out in January. What this would do is that would help to prorate for any employees who either come late or leave early. And it's also, when you look at our schedule of special funds going out, like sales tax checks, et cetera, it kind of bridges the gap between those checks going out. And also, as we know, it'd be nice to get people a little bit extra before Black Friday, although I think that's kind of going out the door these days. And then the other thing is to, as Ms. Palmer has noted, that desert of pay in January, it'd be nice to get that out then. The option, the second and third options they mirror each other, but they're one full-time payment either in the fall or one full-time payment in the spring. The negatives to that is that, again, it doesn't prorate by splitting the checks. And then D, one of the previous proposals, but just a different iteration of the months. If you scroll down, one thing I do need to make you aware of, that's how much this, so pre-K personnel, because they are federally funded personnel, are not in this formula. So if you look at the actual agenda item, I think I put the cost of this at like 1.3 million. That all says it's coming from general, and that's true. But $62,775 of that is coming outside of the funded piece from MFP, because they do not, it would be considered double dipping because the federal government supplies our federal funds for that, and the state's not going to do that. But that'd be like telling a pre-K teacher, you're not going to get this. The other class of employee that, and I'm laughing because she's in the room, who was not on this was the state, for whatever reason, is not, well, they're not funding the superintendent offices, which I'm fine not being funded out of there. But Ms. Kanika and all executive secretaries are also not funded in the superintendent office. I'm not sure why they lumped them in with us, because that's not fair. So what we did is we put all the pre-K personnel, it's broken down, and then you notice at the bottom it also includes the superintendent secretary. And so that is an additional cost of $62,775.50 that we would ask you to fund with the MFP, so that way these employees don't miss out on something that we feel they're equally entitled to. Questions about that?
So is that money there?
Mr. Wascom feels that he can fund that. He talked to, he's able to budget that. So.
Okay. And you said it has to be paid out by May the 2024,
Yes, ma'am.
the end of May 2024? Oh, May 1st, 2024?
Yeah, that's the only, they gave some guidance, but the only hard and fast rule is that it has to be paid out. And then obviously they said don't put it in your salary schedule unless you plan on making up the difference when the state doesn't fund this later on, or if they do.
Board members, any suggestions to any of these proposals?
Is what the employees saying, which way they are wanting?
We've had some feedback from them, huh?
So the feedback I've heard, and it differs, and a lot of what I've talked to is principals and staff around the building. A lot of people were interested in 2 payments. We kind of went around and talked about, well, what would be the months. The only month that people were very adamant about was January. Short of January, everyone was like, oh yeah, November's good, but whenever. But January was the one that really stuck out consistently to everyone. I have heard some people who want the 1 payment, and I've heard people who want the 2 payment. I can't give you hard data to say that's 50-50, but I feel as though it's somewhere in that realm of, there probably is a portion who feels one way and a portion who feels the other. I just don't know. I could not tell you what the majority feels, short of the January payment.
I've had several people reach out to me, and it's about the same way. They either want
Yeah.
1 payment or
Yep.
they want 2 payments, and they've asked me that. About 6 different people have asked.
Yeah.
But they still get their sales tax in the 1st of December, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And that's what we were kind of trying to figure out is like where was it the most opportune times where it would help people the most.
Right.
I was thinking maybe right before May, because June is along from May. Their last day is May 22nd, 3rd, between that.
So the only problem with that is it has to be paid out.
My maid,
No, I'm saying, but maybe the end of April, and it might help over to,
So
because they don't get paid again until the end of May, but not the very end of May, like May 20-something. And then they don't get paid again until the last day of June. It's kind of like a long month.
I see what you're saying.
It's-
Because they get paid on their last working day,
Right.
which this year I think is, I want to say the 26th, but I can't remember off the top of my head. The only issue with that, and it's not really an issue because we've never missed a payroll, but it does make me a little nervous coming up against that May 1st deadline. But again, we've never missed a payroll, so.
Will there now be issues in the January 2nd? Will they be out of the
So
office at this point?
we talked to Chad, and I told Chad, I said, Chad, you do understand that if we put this in January, the board, everyone, I know we never put dates on things, but the idea isn't that this gets paid out January 30th. The only way that January makes sense is that if they get paid as soon as possible. The problem is going to be, he can do all the legwork, and this is what he said, that I can do all the legwork for that if it's a second check, he'll already have all that stuff in the system with a few minor things, so it shouldn't be a big deal. The only problem is if you look at our schedule this year, the majority of our Christmas break is after the actual Christmas holiday, and we come back on like the 7th or 8th, I believe.
and we won't know who actually is coming back.
Exactly. So there's a little bit of a tight window because it's our expectation to get that out in that second week of January when we get back. Worst case scenario, like the beginning of that next week, but we really want this to benefit folks. He thinks he can do it based on the fact it would be the second check, but it will be a little tight.
If you're looking at prorating and paying those people who do come back, January 2nd is not the date.
Yeah.
It's got to be pushed out a week.
Yeah. We're
Well,
actually.
it doesn't say January 2nd, it's just
That's-
the
they have to be
second
in-
in January, as in the second check in January.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry. That is.
I read it 4 times.
Okay, yeah. No, I mean, when he said January 2nd, I'm going, whoa, that's a Monday, but, that's a little soon.
Well, yeah, we're still off. We're still
Yeah, I
off
read it
another
like
week.
that too, and when he said it, I'm going, what am I missing? Yeah.
That dry spell is what we really want to hit.
Close that gap.
Yeah.
I think that's when I hear from most of the employees too, like, oh my God, January has 99 days, It's definitely a dry spell. And the teacher that emailed most of the board, this was a couple of months ago, he had asked for January and June, but June wouldn't work because of the May 1st date we missed.
Right, so we can, and look like they did their due diligence in maybe asking around. Because I know the
What about
particular
April?
person.
April wouldn't be a good month? January and April?
So I split it between fall and spring, but there's no rhyme or reason to that. It's just kind of what we're thinking. But I mean, if you wanted to do 2 checks, you could do it and that's what we put on D. It's any iteration y'all want. And I think this is something that.
Dr. Eloy was just saying, thank you, Ms. Palmer, it would be, Chad would say it'd be easy in January if we give them something this semester. They wouldn't have to do as much figuring in January. See, if we wait in January and April, then it might throw it that it's way down in January. You know, state of the middle of January, it might be the end of January.
Yeah, the basic, so he sends the file. The problem on his part is getting that file together for the people who do our stuff with payroll. That file would have already been created, and all he would have to do is do some minor additions and some minor subtractions. So we could probably get that file to, we might even be able to get, if we did a January pay run, we could probably even get that file in December. Now, there'd be a few people who
Would not return.
Would not return,
and
but-
some we would add.
yeah, but that can also,
The
some
second
of that
check.
can be stopped, I think, after the fact. I'd have to get with Chad on that.
So somebody retiring in the end of December would not receive the,
It
Just a-
says December 31st, so
Yeah,
so they're all gonna get it regardless.
yeah,
Why not just do one payment in January?
we could. Well, I'm sorry, though.
And it
again,
messes him up again.
That messes him, yeah,
Okay.
sorry.
Board members, I'm sure we're going to receive lots of input, and telephone calls and emails on this. And so,
Well, I suggest we do it like, that would help Chad out, help the finance department out. And, I mean, they're gonna get it. If it's better for the 2 payments, fall and spring, they still would get it. It's just, they get it. They may not get it like they want, but they're gonna get it.
yeah, Ms. Palmer, you're right. They'll get 2 checks actually before Christmas break, and so they can do whatever they want
Right.
to do with it. And then one in January, if we do decide to go January, that would take care of all the needs except for the people who said that last check at the very end of May, April or May. So, and I'll remember, this is a one-time deal. This is not a reoccurring.
Well, that mean we need to do it, that's gonna help out Chad. They gonna-
All right, board
Lord, it's
members. So,
vacant.
does anyone feel strongly either way, or other than the emails that we've already received? Does anyone feel strongly either
Just
way?
feel whatever the
whatever they-
majority,
Yeah.
and whoever we get the call, the majority go the way that people wanna do it.
Right.
And the most of
whatever
what have talked to me,
benefits
they would like it in 2 checks.
I think it makes sense. If you put it all on one check, you're gonna get taxed at the supplemental rate anyway, and taxes are gonna eat it up, so.
what about the performance pay? Has that been paid yet?
That has not been paid. It's been submitted to the file has been submitted. So we're just
Okay.
waiting on them to approve, and as soon as they approve and do all their computer stuff, it'll go out.
Any further discussion on this line item?
Okay? No further discussion? B? I'm sorry. D?
So we can actually skip D, and I want to walk through this with y'all to make sure my understanding is your understanding. If you remember, we discussed out-of-state travel. This out-of-state travel is for 10 students at $300 apiece from the general fund. I believe that allows me to approve it, but I was glad it reached the board because I kind of wanted to use this as a litmus test. Okay. All right, yeah.
And the FFA people have represented us so well in the last few years. It's been really great.
Look, that gives me an opportunity to bring this up too. I did have someone reach out, and just because we were talking about FFA, but this is for 4-H. Natchitoches Central's 4-H group won state in the meat identification program. They're going to the national competition, and they have almost all of it funded from outside sources that they raised, but they were asking if there was any money available to help support like food costs while they're on this trip. And I can't even remember where it is, but it's a significant trip. I didn't know the answer to that, so I Just wanted to bring it up to see if there is funding available to help for that.
I think that would be, because of the way we've done this in the past, I would suggest, and I think the board would be positive towards it, if we could do that as an actual request, and then y'all vote on it. Because we typically, at the district level, I feel like y'all need some,
Got the sirens.
input on that. Because we typically don't do that outside of, the funds. I'm obviously in favor of it, but, I think that takes a vote of y'all.
You seen a severe weather alarm, Ms. Kyra? Have you seen a severe weather alarm?
Yeah, I got one from that, so, but it's not too bad, I just walk outside.
Okay.
They just lost power down the road, though.
Keep us posted. Keep it posted.
So that'd be something that would need to go on the agenda.
What do you think?
I think so. If we're gonna do this, I think we need to be consistent.
Okay.
And when are they going?
I don't know the dates. I'll reach out and get those dates and see if it's something that needs to be addressed right now. I think we have time.
Okay, we might need to slip it in between now and next Thursday.
Yeah, if that's the
Going to the
case.
national?
Yes, sir.
Did we have, I thought we had a policy that if the students was going to compete like that, something with national, that we would give them money.
Well, there was a policy at one time that they got some funding.
If they
I
were
don't know, that
going
was
to
a long time
national, or
Yeah,
something like,
national.
you know, if a student was going to represent the district in national.
Okay. I'll have to
And
look at it.
there was a limit on it, I don't
Yeah,
remember.
I don't know if it's that $300.
Well, then that's maybe where they got the
That must be
$300.
that $300 per
I think it was
student.
$300,
Yeah.
that's what I remember.
Yeah, and I'm sure that would cover costs, you know, if that's in
I
there.
thought we had a policy. I know we used to do it all the time when,
I'll have to look at
especially
it.
when they was going to national, not just state, but if it was
Usually it's in
national
Kansas
stuff
City or
like that, we
somewhere,
would give
something
them.
like that.
We had funded for FBLA, and we had to request it, but that's, I mean, we just had to let them know.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Thought so.
Okay. Is that an E for discuss?
Yeah, I don't know why it didn't show up as an E, but it should be.
Okay, discuss and consider policy for annual school budget funds.
Okay, so basically, this school budget fund is something that it's an internal policy. It's not something you'll see on like our policy manual. It's something for in the back, and we just updated this. There was apparently a lot of stuff that previous boards had asked for, so we kept everything the previous boards had asked for, but we just kind of updated some things. And if you scroll through, if you have any questions specifically, I think there is one question about. You'll see that. The lab schools, it appears as though they're getting more money. They're actually not. What it is Mr. Wascom gave everyone their school budget funds, but he's paying for all their toiletries and cleaning supplies and their copy machines and all that. The labs don't have that the copy stuff because it gets paid for through NSU. So we gave them the difference of what everyone else was getting in their supplies. But they, so that's again where you might see a discrepancy there. Most of these numbers have stayed the same, if not increased, for just the change in times. We kept the teacher supply. We also added interest and opportunities. That's the new thing from the state that Mr. Himes takes care of. And we put an extra $7 per student in there based on enrollment so that they can invest in those interest and opportunity classes.
I'll jump in here for my teachers. Is there any way we can increase that teacher supply fund?
So that teacher supply fund, interestingly enough, that's the $100 that they get reimbursed for. We currently don't even exhaust that. Now, individual teachers do, but like we'll look at a school that's they should have $2,000 because they have 20 teachers or whatever. They're not exhausting that, so then the rest of that can go to general supplies, but that's something that if you have a specific number in mind, I could bring to Mr. Wascom and he could consider, yeah.
And the only reason I'm asking is, as a teacher, we would get the $100, and they would always ask us to buy like a printer cartridge. Well, that took $60 of it right there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, not to mention you had fall and spring.
And we never knew if it was something actually in the budget, because we would always ask every year, hey, are we still gonna get that $100 available?
And that was one of the reasons he put it in there, because
Yeah.
some principals just automatically spend it, and some every year think that we took it away, and it's always been there. It's always now it's in print.
Yep.
So, but No, if you kind of shoot us an email and kind of what you're thinking, we can definitely look at it.
Okay, that concludes finance.
Thank you, Ms. Palmer. Mr. Danzy?
Let's see, on the executive report. Get it up here.
Number 6.
Yes, 6A. We will take that up in the next meeting, is that correct?
Executive session, yes, sir.
6B,
There's nothing to approve here.
I don't know why that, because that was definitely an attachment.
Didn't attach, okay.
But I can tell you what it is. There was part 7 on page 14 of your student handbook. So if you get home and you have your student handbook and you can pull it up, page 14, number 7, we put in the fight policy that
Lord, it's there. For some reason, no, it's under executive content.
I was gonna say, I read
Yeah,
it in there somewhere.
I have it. It pulls up on mine.
Yeah, you all actually have that access. I don't.
you're.
So they
yeah,
have
they're
it.
on
It's just not where it normally
Okay,
is.
so if you scroll to page 14, there's a deletion because as a board, y'all voted to get rid of the one fight policy, but there was one line that we skipped that contradicted that. So we just removed that line. I believe it's point 7 on page 14.
Yeah, struck
Yeah.
through in
Strike
yellow.
through, and that's the only
Yep.
thing. And that was brought to our attention, and we immediately said we need to revise that.
And these are all policy items on here. I don't know if everybody.
I can go through each one of them real quick if you'd like. Policy GBRIB, they changed one word. Instead of listing physician, nurse, they just put clinician everywhere. And then also an optional policy, which I think is something we should adopt, is an addition of, so every 6 years you get 90 days of extended sick leave. And once you exhaust that, it's done. What this would do is put an additional 30 days within that 6 years if it's related to pregnancy, infant situation, anything to do with the maternity or paternity stuff. And I think the reason we need to do that is because the majority of our staff is female. And if you look at the number of days I have versus my wife, just based on we have the same number of years, I have a significant more number of days only because I didn't give birth to 3 children. And I think that's something easy we can do, and it's at our discretion, and it's only if there's a significant issue tied to a pregnancy issue. So, policy BE, that says we need to list the fee on our website, which the policy committee already came up with that fee. And then optional, how many copies do you start charging, or do you charge no matter how many copies it is? So, for instance, the person, say it's $1 a copy, and we say 100 copies, well, $100. But if they only have 20, is there a line that y'all want to put in there that says anything under 15, 20 copies, whatever it is free? That's at y'all's discretion.
And that's the public wanting copies?
Copies of,
Requesting copies of
yeah,
something?
like they'll call and they'll do a freedom of information request, and we'll have to provide them any number of things, and we charge them a fee for that. So this is saying we have to put that fee on the website, excuse me, and y'all can also decide if it's under a certain amount to not charge them at all.
This is employees requesting stuff too, right? Like they have to pay
I don't,
certain
Ms.
amount if
Page,
they
do we,
I
request
think
stuff.
it's just.
we don't typically charge
Don't think
employees
it's
for,
employee.
Like if you have to request a pay stub from last year.
yeah, no, we don't charge them for that.
There used to be.
Wait, yeah,
There's no-
for pay stubs, yes.
Yeah,
If
there
you
sure
come
is.
in and you need a pay
Charge you for
stub
pay
or a copy of a
Like $1.
W-2, it's $1 per page.
Okay.
Anything computer generated is $1 per page. If we have to go and actually hand pull copies from file cabinets, then I think it's $5 per page.
Okay. So this would allow y'all, because I hear some shaking of heads and some disagreement, this would allow y'all to set those limits. And we could put in there that this does not
So,
apply to.
real
employees.
quick, within the employee's payroll area, there's nowhere you can create your own or recreate your own check stub?
There
GFA.
actually is. If they log on to GFA,
Yeah,
let me say that again. If they would log on to GFA,
right. Oh, so that's why they were being charged?
if they
It
would
was-
log on to GFA.
Most
they
of them
Okay.
don't know, more than likely, you know, they
It's
come
not
in.
the only option.
Yeah.
If there is that option, that's totally
So
reasonable.
well,
GFA's free.
you're actually not paying so much for the copy as the amount of
person
work it
having to go
takes
do
to,
it,
yeah.
yes.
So, but this is at y'all's discretion. Any other questions on that?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So since we're talking about payroll and GFA, do we have the ability of what's specifically put on these paycheck stubs?
What do you mean?
For example, we've had the conversation about MFP, so being very specific on the paycheck stub. This is salary, this is a tax stipend, this is a teacher with 32 years and her master's degree. Because I'm hearing a lot of conflict through our payroll about, specifically a teacher called and said that she has had her master's for several years and she's still not being paid for that. It's not on her paycheck stub. And she's inquired about it. And I just think that it would help satisfy some of these conflict when people are having questions about their checks.
So
You know-
that's something I'd have to, probably more of a Chad question
Okay.
about what can be put on there to what detail level. I know he has some ability there. I just don't know like how deep it can get. So I can,
So I remember the years of service being
Yeah.
on there.
It is, it's broken down by line item.
Years of service is on there.
Right?
Um,
Coaching stipends.
That's on there.
I'm not a coach,
is
so I
on
haven't
there?
seen those.
Yeah, or it used to be, at least, it's been a minute.
I'm
The
not
old
sure.
sy-
I
in
can
the-
just tell
in
you
the
the
old
years of
system it
experience on there because
was.
that's on mine. But as far as like stipends and things of
Yeah,
that
I'm gonna have to
nature,
get with-
I've not been privy to
Chad's
seeing
gonna be the
that.
best person to answer it and tell us what's currently on there and what can be put on there, and if it can't be put on there, why, and all that. So I can get you, I might even get Chad to come talk to y'all next Thursday about that, because seems like y'all have an interest in that, so I can get him for that. Policy BEA, this is how video can be viewed, for what reasons, and also stipulates that we have to keep any video that we record for 30 days, which our system automatically does that. I can tell you, this is a constant, probably every other month situation for me. There's conflicting issues with parents being able to see stuff. They are able to see it at my discretion, but if there's a lot of other students involved, there's an issue there. At advice of counsel, we are now looking into software that blurs individual faces, but Mr. Kozad is looking into that. We don't have a cost yet of what that is, and we also don't know if how deep that entails for
So we're-
upgrading our
So
system.
we're gonna be like a version of cops.
Yeah.
Apparently, well, because what they do is they consider every videotape as a educational record. So if I give one to Billy, but it also includes Mr. Russ in it, then I'm giving Billy one of Russ's educational records. So that's where it gets a little hairy, but this one stipulates how long we have to have it and then how it can be requested to be viewed.
So we're looking at redacting faces and recognizable traits or whatever, okay.
Policy EE. This is basically, I think and it doesn't really apply to us, with the exception of the lab schools, because every other school right now is completely free lunch and breakfast. But the lab schools, as you know, are not that. And what this says, as long as there is state funding, which the governor put this in place, then any student who receives reduced pay should not pay at all. So reduced price becomes no price at all. And so you have to adopt it because the legislation is out there, but this probably won't apply to 99% of our students. But those who do, it'll be a great thing for them. And then policy IDBC. This says in high school classes, specifically health, but they don't really care which one, but health makes the most sense. We have to discuss and inform students about organ donation and why that's a good thing to do.
Who said?
Now, who,
The state. This was a piece of legislation.
Some last
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure that-
legislative session.
collecting body parts as it is.
And that concludes the executive report, doesn't it? We can-
Thank you, Mr. Danzy, for your body collection parts. We're gonna be cops in one policy and the coroner in the other.
Yeah.
Board members, anything else that we'd like to discuss prior to closing the meeting out? I want to thank you all for coming and your input. I'm sure we'll get a lot of input on this MFP checks, and let's just figure out where we need to put it. Thank y'all.